to the Tool Station Northern Counties East League podcast. I'm Richard Watts. I'm joined by League General Manager Matt Jones, who's going to give us an update from the league.
Okay, so looking back at the games of last weekend, I picked the only 0-0 draw in the whole league to go to, Athersley versus Shirebrook. And to be honest, it wasn't the best of games, but there were hatfuls of goals everywhere else. I've picked out 3 results from each division that stood out to me. In the Premier Division, Golcar United going to Campion top of the league, and Golcar hit them for 5. Bit of a surprise result, so well done to them. I picked out Frickley Athletic 4, Maltby Main 3. This was certainly the game of proverbial 2 halves. Frickley 4-0 up, and then Maltby banged 3 second half goals in. All of a sudden, Frickley hanging on a bit. Sounds really exciting. And then one with less goals, but equally an impressive result, Garforth Town 0, Thackley 1. Thackley proving to be a bit of a surprise package this year. Garforth is a difficult place to go, and that win keeps Thackley nicely in 3rd place in the table. I don't think many people would have predicted that at the start of the season, so well done to them. And in Division 1, 3 massive away wins, and there's 3 promotion chasing teams going away and hitting teams lower down in the league. So we've got Yorkshire Amateur 0, Wakefield 5, Glasshoughton 0, Wombwell 7, and then the biggest score of all, Althorpe Welfare 0, Beverley Town 9. And it even took Beverley just 15 seconds to open the scoring in that game. And that's a really impressive result because Althorpe have picked up lately and had some really good results. Start with the FA Vase. Congratulations to Emily and Hallam. Reached the last 16 of the FA Vase, and it's fantastic for the league to have 2 teams get to this far in a national competition. Last time we had at least 2 teams in was 2015, where we had AFC Mansfield, Tadcaster and Shaw Lane make it through. So fantastic. Good luck to them in the next round. Talking of the Vase, I was fortunate enough to be the secretary for Cleethorpes Town on their run to the final in 2017. And in fact, my last game as a club secretary before I started this role with the league was the Vase final at Wembley. So if you're going to bow out, you might as well do it in some style, which I was lucky enough to be able to do. Looking back at the quarter-final, our bosses at Cleethorpes Town pulled an absolute masterstroke. When the draw came out, we were drawn away to Southall in London in the quarter-final. And the bosses kindly said players can stay overnight, we'll book you a hotel. We all travelled down on the team bus. They'd actually booked us a hotel at Wembley. So players get in their room early evening. It's obviously February, really dark. Look out your hotel windows. There's the arch all lit up. Next morning, they all got out the beds really early. Off you go for a walk right round the outside of Wembley Stadium. Basic message was, if you do the business today and in the semi-final, you'll be back here playing. What better incentive could the players want? We went to Southall that afternoon and smashed 5 goals in, and the rest is history. The actual final itself was a superb experience, something that when I started as a volunteer in 2007, never dreamt I'd do something at Wembley. It's the stuff of dreams. It's the stuff where Premier League players play, England play. But this is the incentive, the fantastic thing about the FA Vase, where clubs and volunteers and players and semi-pro players can get to play at Wembley. The build-up was absolutely unreal. Phone was ringing with unknown numbers. It was Derek Ray, the commentator from BT Sports, wanting information on the team. The phone rang the next day. It was Adam Virgo, who was his co-commentator, ex-pro with Brighton. People like this ringing me up. This was unheard of. The actual day itself, we get up, we have breakfast, we get on the team bus, and it's like a military operation. You've got to be at the ground at 11, 12 a.m. Everything's to the minute. Everything's coordinated. Sort of stuff you don't get down at this level of football. Sat on the team bus, driving up the road to Wembley. There's fans on both sides of the road cheering, clapping. The door, great big gates open. You go inside the players' entrance, walk through, and it's the most palatial dressing room you'll ever see in your life. Totally different to what we get at steps 5 and 6. It's probably bigger than my house, that dressing room. And you see your kits hanging up there, and it's just surreal. Walk down the tunnel, and what I wanted to do, one of the ambitions I wanted to do was to do my team sheet on the centre circle at Wembley. And I was able to do that. And then you go and watch the match sat in the Royal Box. And the little old me from Grimsby sat in the Royal Box. Never dreamt of it. The actual game itself, we got absolutely battered by South Shields, lost the game 4-0. And the bus after the game was quite subdued. But then you get home, and the next morning you wake up. Was I really at Wembley yesterday? And it's something that I never dreamt I would do. And I'm so fortunate and thankful to Cleethorpes Town for giving me the chance to do that. And even now, 7 years later, the players still talk about playing at Wembley. I played at Wembley. I did this. And it never goes away. It's memories that last a lifetime. It would be absolutely fantastic if we could have either Hallam, Emley, or both get to this year's final and experience that. It's absolutely brilliant.
If you have a question for Matt Jones, please email ncelpodcast@gmail.com and we'll try and include that question in a future edition. Volunteers are essential to all clubs at this level, and on the podcast we hope to feature a number of volunteers in future episodes. If you're a volunteer who would like to come onto the podcast and talk about what you do in your club, then email ncelpodcast@gmail.com. As Matt mentioned, Emley and Hallam through to the last 16 of the FA Vase. Emley have drawn Wickham and Hallam play Lincoln United. And I'm now joined by Ian Jones from Hallam. So is this the first time that Hallam have been to the last 16, as far as the last 16?
Second. It's our first time since 1981.
And how?
So, before I was born.
Sadly, it's not before I was. So how have you got to the last 16? What's your progress been?
It's been quite an interesting one. Obviously, we as most teams usually find it at this level, the earlier rounds of the FA Vase, I think, but I found as a bit of a nuisance from management and players, and I don't think it's really valued as much as it should be in its earlier rounds. And we started off with a lovely, lovely trip to Lower Breck out in Liverpool. 1-0 down. Striker's gone off with a broken leg. Last minute equaliser, and then won on penalties. And since then, the FA Vase has been our main area of success. We've had a stop-start season with our league results. So the FA Vase has been some kind of relief. It's been quite an interesting one in terms of players, because we've gone through such an injury crisis this year at Hallam. Obviously, we brought players in as replacements, and some people have left, and we've obviously had to replace them as well. But we've replaced them with lads who have obviously, no doubt, played in the FA Vase for another club, which has meant that we've almost had two squads this season. We've had our league squad, and then we've had a cup squad, just purely because of the amount of injuries that we've had, i.e., Hugo Warros, goalkeeper, broken hand, Ollie Fearing, broken leg, two lads, broken ribs, another one with ankle injury, two lads with back injuries. The list goes on. Some people have obviously left and gone to pastures new, which causes issues as well. So it's been quite an achievement that we've made it so far, to be honest.
How was the game against Silsden? How did that go?
Outstanding. Obviously, we beat Silsden 3-0 at home in the league, and they beat us 2-1 at their place in the league. So we knew quite a bit about them already. They're a good side. They could be higher up in the league than where they are at the moment. A little bit similar to us, I think. They're sometimes a little bit hit and miss. But got good quality players, a lot of experience. So you know what you're going to get from them. And I think, irrelevant of it being a cup game, it's probably one of our best performances of the season, I would say. They definitely rose to the occasion.
Lincoln United in the next round, but home tie. What are your thoughts on that?
Whenever Hallam play anyone at home, I always back Hallam to get a result, whether it be a cup game or a league game. Obviously, Lincoln United are absolutely flying. I think they've won 18 out of 20 league games. Obviously, have won the same amount of cup games as we have to be at the same stage of the competition. But like I say, if we can get another good crowd in, which I'm sure we will, I'd always back Hallam at home. Always would.
So do you think you could get a sellout for that one?
I think it'll be very close. I think it'll be very, very close. Obviously, we had just over 1,000 for the Silverstone game. I know Lincoln United travelled quite well. I think they took over 100 to South Liverpool in their last Vase fixture. So yeah, obviously our capacity is 1,300, so we'll definitely be close to it. That's for sure.
Did I read somewhere you've had 1,000 crowds in about the last 5 seasons or something like that?
Yeah, we've had for the last three, we've had over 1,000 in 3 consecutive seasons. So obviously we had 1,000 in last weekend, and then we had 1,000 in twice last year. I think once was for the FA Cup game at the start of the season against Bury, and then the other one was Handsworth over the Christmas period. They were both over 1,000, and then the year before that, we had over 1,000 on 3 occasions. I think it was Brigg, Ferriby, and Clipston. Clipston when we won the league.
That's good going, isn't it? It's obviously. And how do you think? What does it mean to the club getting this far in the competition?
Oh, it means so much. I think the players are becoming increasingly more aware of that every time that we get a little bit further. And they can see how much it means to the committee, to the volunteers, to the fans. It's just great to see little old Hallam be in the last 16 of a National Cup competition. And obviously, there's so many rounds in this competition. When you, like I say, when you first start, you're so far away from the final, or from even the quarters, or from the last 16, 32. I think some people are a little bit disinterested, but now you get into the business end of the competition, and you're thinking, well, if we could have a few more home draws, if we could do this, if we could do that, then you're really not far away from doing something which would be absolutely unbelievable. Not just for Hallam, but also for the NCL, for a club from our league. Oh, well, obviously, I know Emily are at the same stage as well. So to have 2 clubs from the same league this far in is fantastic, and hopefully both us and Emily are in the next round, because I think that'd be a record for the NCL. So that'd be great.
It'd be nice to have an NCEL final.
That would be very nice, very nice. I think with how the draw works, obviously it's been regionalised, and this round is also regionalised. I think, well, it has to be nationalised next round, because of obviously there's only 6 teams left in the north, so 6 becomes 3, and then obviously one of them teams has got to play a southern team. So it would be lovely if we could both meet in the final. That would be one hell of a final.
It would, yeah. And do you get much interest from local media getting to this stage? Will it bring you new fans, do you think?
I think so. I think positive results always brings you new fans, and I know that we had an awful lot of new faces come through the gate on Saturday, and obviously we're at home against Sackley this weekend. And if we can keep winning football matches, people will come back. BBC Radio Sheffield are always quite supportive of us. On my Praise and Grumble on Football Heaven, we are mentioned, and people do call in and speak about us. So Adam Oxley and all the people at Football Heaven are really supportive. And it's great. It's great to have them on board. It's something that we're quite fortunate to have, because there's some teams where local media or press aren't that interested. But it's really good to have such a big station like Radio Sheffield still be interested in what we're trying to do.
That's great. I wish you the best of luck, and I hope I can talk to you when you're into the last days.
I hope so. Fingers crossed. Fingers
Right.
crossed. Hopefully, last 8, last 4, and then the big one.
Next up, I'm talking to NCEL referee and Northern Premier League assistant referee Mark Wordsworth. I was just reading a piece that mentioned you've officiated over 1,000 games. Is that right?
Yeah, it's 1,200 now.
Right, right. I couldn't tell what the date was of the article. Right. And was it
Yeah,
something like 300 odd in 21-22 season? Was it something like that?
yeah, in a calendar year, I think it was from the 2nd of May one year to the 1st of May the following year, 317 games.
Wow.
I'm a bit of a geek that way. I keep a spreadsheet, and I just, if I'm being honest, I like to keep a tally of my games, and
Right.
I like them little benchmarks that you can gauge by. So yeah, I had a busy 12 month that month.
Well, you must have done, yeah. How many North Counties East League games do you tend to do a season?
To be fair to regarding them, I for the level I'm at, I bundle them in with Northern Prem lines. So
Right.
I probably got about 12 last year
Right.
as the first middles season, 12 or 13, and I think I'm on about 6 so far this year.
Right.
But obviously, with them, you can have your cup competitions and things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, all in all, there's quite a few more games than that, but to nail it down to that, I'm not sure. I'd have to have a look.
Right. So yeah, I wanted to ask you about some, because like some of the sort of main rules that people probably don't fully understand, I think, or they think they do and they probably don't. So could you run through the offside law?
Offside law. So which part of it do you want to know? Because obviously the clear and obvious aspect is that when the ball's played and the person is in offside position, i.e. closer to the goals or goal line than the second to last defender. So when he plays that and then he receives it, whether he's still in the same position or he's come back onside, it's still classed as offside. So are we happy with that part?
Yes, yeah. And what's the sort of interpretation sort of on interfering with play? Is interfering with play actually part of the law, or is that just
Yeah.
an interpretation of?
It is. So there's a couple of things to consider when we talk about that. And there's a bit of a theme as we go through the aspects that you've asked us to look at. So if you look at, think about where it's being played from, and say if a player's in an offside position, that if a defender, so they say a second last defender, if he's going to control the ball and then he carries on and gets away, as much as he's offside, I wouldn't expect an assistant, nor would a referee expect me to come in on that. So if he's got it, let's carry on playing. If it's going to affect the outcome, and then somebody's going to come and take it off him, then safe referee will say, well, he's offside, so let's go with the original decision. And think about from distance. So it could be along the floor where a defender can control it. If it's up in the air and it's going to bounce off the defender's head, then again, the easiest thing to do is they just give the offside. The difference is if a defender plays it with his feet, so say it's on the floor and the player's in offside position, if the defender goes to make an attempt to play the ball, then that then brings him back onside. If that makes sense, because it's almost like the defender's played the ball to him rather than a deflection or come off a bodily part and pass it to him. I think the significant time when that occurred a few years ago was when Liverpool were playing Tottenham and when it really became apparent to everybody. And I think it was somebody like I can't remember the midfielder for Tottenham, but Harry Kane was in offside position, and because Dejan Lovren went to play the ball, and then it came off him, and then he's passed it on to Harry Kane, and then he scored, and that's where, in law, it's correct. To the spectator, when you see somebody's like 4 yards offside and a player from his own team's passed it, and then it's come off a defender and then went to him, it looks like, well, why wouldn't you just give the offside? But in law, because he's made a genuine attempt to play the ball, and it's also feasible to say that he could have played the ball. So it wasn't like it's coming from distance at speed and at height. It's down on the floor where you'd expect him to gain control. It's about that control aspect.
What would the situation be? You've got a ball knocked forward. It's flicked on by an attacker to somebody who's stood in an onside position. Then they knock it across. It's knocked in by somebody who is now stood in an offside position. in an onside position, but when the striker flicked it on, they were stood offside.
So you've got that last contact, isn't it? So there's an attempt to play the ball there. So, you can't have your get out of jail free card, so to say. So if the ball's been played and the, let's say, striker goes to flick it onto his mate who's in an offside position, that's the next phase of play. So for me, the safe bet would be apply law and he's actually offside.
Right. And sort of interfering with play, I'm sort of assuming if there's somebody stood offside, say in the 6-yard box in front of the goalkeeper, a shot comes in, they jump over and it goes in. I presume that would be called offside.
So that one's slightly different because, it is offside, but it depends if he's affecting the line of sight for the keeper and whether. So if you think about if it's on the left-hand side of the goals and the shot comes in from the left side, but the player's in an offside position, but he's on the right-hand side of the goals, he's not actually interfering with play. If the striker was actually on the left-hand side and the shot's coming from the left side and he's offside, that's interfering with play, line of sight for the actual keeper. So he's putting the keeper off from making an attempt to save the ball.
How do you sort of work with your assistants? Because I'm guessing a number of situations, the referee will be in a better position to see if somebody's interfering with play or not than the linesman looking across the line.
Yeah, so I mean, what the advice that I would give to an assistant is, if he's offside, give us a buzz. It's then going to be my call as to whether he's interfered or not. So if you think about the guy that's on the throw line, he can be 35, 40 yards away from where a potential decision needs to be made. Sometimes it's clear and obvious. Sometimes it's pretty contentious. And that's where you'll see the referee go and run over and then make that call. That's where I would expect to see a buzz or feel a buzz, expect to see a flag. And I would rather be talking about it rather than not, but also let that phase of play finish. Because what you don't want to do is an early flag and the guy wasn't offside and they've actually got a goal and we've disallowed because, or we haven't accounted for it because we've blown our whistle early.
Right. And can we move on to handball? Can you run through the handball rule and the current interpretations of it?
Yeah, so the interpretation, that's the deviation, because the handball law, people say about, it's changed, the law's changed significantly. Yes, there's been a couple of step changes, but not significantly. So I think, if I'm being honest, I think IFAB's tried to clean it up that much, that by putting that much detail in, it's actually created a bit of confusion. I also think that what you see in the Premier League and some of the handballs that are given 1 week and maybe not the next week, it then makes it really hard for those guys at grassroots level as to, well, that was given last week at Burnley, so how comes we aren't having it this week? I also think that some teams try and compare apples with apples. And the fact is, if they want to compare apples with apples, well, they want to be playing in the Premier League and not at grassroots level. So sometimes you've got to gauge where we are. But effectively, it's about natural bodily position. Sometimes you've got to look at whether it's ball to hand rather than a handball. Has there been a movement from the offender, shall we say, where his hands come towards the ball and prevented either the ball moving forward or the ball going towards the goal? Again, like I said earlier, you've got to consider how far has that ball travelled to get to where the point is. And sometimes you got to look, if it's 2 yards away and the guy stood there bracing, waiting for the ball coming in. You see a lot of defenders now doing that because they know it's pretty much coming. But sometimes, naturally, if you've been running 30, 40 yards and you're trying to put a sprint in to try and stop an attack, sometimes your arm's naturally there. And that's what you've got to look at, the natural. Then you've also got to look at the distance. Has it been kicked from 10 or 15 yards or has it been kicked from 2 yards? Then you've also got to consider the speed. Is it a tap-in or is it an absolute pelter where what chance has the average human being got to get his hand out of the way? And that's what you've got to look at. So, safe refereeing, for me, apply law.
Does the law say that? I'm presuming the law says it's got to be deliberate, a deliberate act. Is that what the law actually says?
law itself, not necessarily a deliberate act. And I'll go back to when people say about foul, he intended to do that. So intent isn't in that actually in laws of the game. That's been gone quite a few years there. You've just got to stick with fact. As I say, stick with the criteria. Is the arm in a natural position? Is the arm close to the body? Consider it this way: if once it's above the shoulders as well, our arms aren't naturally there. I know that sometimes when players go to jump and they try and get leverage and stuff like that, but once an arm's up there, that's not a natural position for our arms to be in. So anything above the shoulders, usually a stone waller. You've also then got to look at, if your arm's out here and the ball's being crossed in, will it affect that attack? And again, that's not a natural position for you to do that, to defend. And that's where you've got to look at you gaining that advantage. So I'm not sure if that answers your question. It's always easy to look at scenarios and you can see why certain ones are given and certain ones aren't. The difference is I think the Premier League's try and start the year off and they'll say, right, let's clamp down on this and let's go through this process. And then some of the handballs that have been given in the past, I think a couple of years ago, there was a game with Tottenham, and I think it was Eric Dyer or something like that. He was like this, and the ball hit the back of his hand. But because his hand's up here, it was like, well, we'll have it as an handball. But it was a natural movement, and he wasn't even looking in which way the direction was, but they just dealt with fact. Now, common sense applies that they won't be given things like that.
How does it work if the Premier League's made a directive on what they're going to do? How does that cascade down to referees at sort of like non-league level? How does it work from that point of view?
To a degree, yes, because ultimately, they're at the top of the tier, top of the pyramid where we look at, they're the best referees in England. So typically a lot of it does filter down. But again, we've got the laws of the game and it's how we interpret it, but we follow their lead.
Right. And moving on to denying a goal scoring opportunity. Some people talk about last man. What does the law actually say about that sort of thing? What is the actual?
Last man went years ago. People can still talk about last man. Last man. And now people talk about double jeopardy. So there has been a step change regarding double jeopardy. And that's where you're bringing in things like, for the denying obvious goal scoring opportunity, that's where you're bringing in, is there a genuine attempt to play the ball? And you've got to consider that. So the main criteria when you're looking at Dogso, you've got, does the player have control of the ball or is he likely to gain control of the ball? So consider that. Then you've also got to look at the distance from goal. So is it an obvious goal scoring opportunity if he's in his own half and he's still got another 40 yards to run? So it's not obvious that he's going to do it. Might be one-on-one, but you might have a fast defender like Reece James or something like that that's going to come back and get it. But it's got to be obvious. You've then got to look at the direction. And this is where a lot of teams, they're wanting to fall within a set criteria. But when you see a striker going away from goal, and then a defender comes and wipes them out, they'll say, Dogso, last man, nobody covering. And there might be nobody covering, but he's actually going away from goal. So what you've got to look at, is it obvious that they will then go on and score from the position they're in? And sometimes you've got to say, well, yeah, he's got a decent shot on him, and I bet he could score from there. But it's not obvious. Always focus on the obvious. And then obviously the last part of it's covering defenders. So if you do have covering defenders, it's not always obvious that you're just going to be able to gain that advantage and go on. But go back to the genuine attempt for the ball. And if you've got a defender sliding in and he is sliding in for the ball, this is where if there's a foul or a free kick given and it's a penalty and they'll go, last man there, why hasn't he got the genuine attempt stops it from being the red card situation and the yellow card situation in most cases. If it's a reckless challenge, then they can still have the yellow card and the penalty. But a lot of people get excited about it. It's because of what's gone on in the years gone by, and people aren't always kept up to speed with what's gone on. So, and a lot of these situations are so clear and obvious that you go, yeah, I can see why he's done that. It's the really awkward and tenacious ones that you look back and think, well, we haven't seen this before, so let's put it into that bucket. And the problem is, one team will want it, the other team won't, because obviously it's going to be a penalty against them. But then if you flip it, would they want it in their own penalty area? No, they probably wouldn't. So it's about doing the right thing, but again, playing a lot.
And moving on to the sin bin, how does the sin bin work for dissent, and what is sort of like the dividing line, really? Because I mean, I'm assuming there's a lot of banter goes on the pitch. When does it sort of like go over the line?
So sin bin falls obviously in the dissent category, doesn't it? And obviously it only falls up to step 5. So step 4, step 3 and above, sin bins aren't in place. So step 5 and below they are. So what you've got to remember is there's a difference between dissent and foul and abusive. So if somebody may swear or may say something about a decision that you've given, then that would probably fall within the dissent category. If somebody tells you you're an effing bald person, then that's foul and abusive. And sometimes it can be misinterpreted by certain individuals, but the law is quite clear on what's regarded as dissent and what's regarded as offensive and abusive or off in a bus. So dissent is also by word or action, and people forget about this. So when you see a player maybe not agree with something, and I think there was one the other week on the Premier League where I think he got 2 cautions within seconds, where he flung his arms down like that. I think was it Tottenham again at Newcastle.
Yeah.
But he flung his arms, and that was a clear sign of dissent. No, I'll tell you what, it was Tottenham against Liverpool, and it was a throw-in between Salah and another, and as the player, Salah had actually caught the ball and kicked the ball out, so it was a defensive throw against Liverpool. And when the player turned around and realised that, I can't remember the name of the referee, but he gave it against him, he flung his arms like that, and that was the clear dissent. And when he gave him the card, he then done his arms again and gave him another one for it, and that's when he got his red card for it. So dissent by word or action, and the sin bin's quite. For me, it's effective if it's used correctly, and I would like to think that in the time that I've used it over the 3.5 years, whatever it's been in place, that I've used it effectively. And once people understand what you will give it for, what you won't give it for, and there is a difference, people get on board with it. So for me, it's an effective tool, especially at grassroots level.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. That's. Could you give us a sort of like rundown of your referee career, or officiating career, how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, so like probably most dads at the time, there was a clear shortage of referees in the area. And at the time, I was running a local football club, and I think I was under 12s at the time. And one of the older age groups said, "Would you mind refereeing for us?" To which I said, "I'm an health and safety manager. I get enough hassle Monday to Friday. I don't need it on a weekend as well."
Yeah.
And this went on. So I first officiated something like November the 17th, November the 5th, 2017. So there's a few months into the season, and some of the local teams, they were that fed up that they hadn't been allocated a referee. Come and do it. I said, "I'll tell you what, if there's any hassle," I said, that's me doing it. And I did my first game, and I come off. I said, "When's your next home game?" And I absolutely loved it. It was 2 local junior football teams, under 16s. And as I say, I come away from it and I just thought, you know what? Maybe when my teams had their time and got to under 16s and they all go their own ways, maybe this is something I can get into. And I thought local football was going to be my level, as in kids football. The next season, I progressed and done a couple of men's friendlies, and then I got asked, I think the turn of the next year, so 12 months later, I got asked, would you do some Sunday League games? To which I was a bit unsure, and I was a bit concerned that would I be up for the challenge? And I think I got something like 20 games in that season. And I ended up with a cup final at the end of the season. And I realised it's so important on there. You know, we work all season, just like the teams do. Teams work towards either winning the league or trying to get to a cup final. So do referees. The better the season you've had, the more likely you'll get a decent cup final or maybe a line or fourth official or even middle. So them's our cup finals for us. So that's our enjoyment. And as I say, I ended up with a Saturday League final and a Sunday League final. And I thought, hey, I like this. And by this point, my team had folded. So a lot of the players went to play for other teams and things like that. So I ended up going from training with kids on a Tuesday and playing on a Sunday as then to refereeing on a Saturday morning and also on a Sunday. And I'd go and do three games on a Sunday. And some people say, how do you do it? And these were like, 80-minute games. And I said, I just enjoy it. I just really enjoyed it. I was out all day on a Sunday, and that was just my sort of break away from the norm, from everyday life in health and safety to you know what? I love my football, and I love just being part of it. The following season, I was asked, why don't you go on promotion? To which I was a bit like, what's the promotion thing all about? And obviously, I knew some of the guys in the area that they were like level 4 or level 5, and I just thought, I don't know if I can achieve this, but I thought, you know what, it's worth a try. So first year or the second year of refereeing, I got me 76, and it was a little bit different then to what it is now, because now the more coaching reports, and you need 2 of those, and you get your promotion. Back then, you got a score, and if you met a certain score, then you get through. If you didn't meet the criteria, then you'd have to go again the following year to see if you've improved. So the first year I got 76. The following year I got 65. And again, more games came and more finals came towards the back end of the season. And I thought, you know what? I'm here now. Why don't I give it a try? So I was 44, 45 at the time. Why don't I give it a try for level 4? Because if I don't do it now and keep on that momentum, I'll never do it. And I'll stick at 5. But I really enjoyed what I'd done at level 5. But I thought, if I don't test myself, I won't know. So my next season, I went 5 to 4. And I had a real good average from my scores. So that tells us that, I think I'm ready as a level 4. Let's go out and enjoy it. And again, some really nice finals, some good talking points. During these times, I think there was my first year of doing senior football or open age football. I got Saturday League referee of the year for Scunthorpe. The following year, I got Sunday League referee of the year. The following year after that, I got match official of the year for Links FA. So I was getting some nice accolades as well. Like, builds you up, and so I think, I'm happy. And I think it was one final, I think 2020, October 2020. And my mum and dad come down to watch from Cumbria, because that's where I originate from. And I've got to say, that's one of my proudest moments for my mum and dad to be sat in the crowd. To a lot of people, you're going to watch some mid-20 guys have a game of football, blah, blah, blah. But for me, I was really proud. One, to represent Links FA, but the other one for my mum and dad to be there to watch. So my first season at step 5 and 6 last year, so level 4. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it. That step change of doing Northern Prem lines and doing Northern Counties middles, really enjoyed it. I think there's a common theme that I think we'd always like more games. I think when you go from what originally I had, and we talked about at the start how many games I've done. When you're going from that to 2 games on average a month at the level that you're at, you've got to then look for other leagues to try and top up your games to keep your momentum going, things like that. So, I'd love it if I got 2 middles, 2 lines every month. It doesn't always work out like that. But last season, I ended up with a playoff final, and that playoff game, and that was Lincoln United versus Avro. And that was one of the playoff games where one was at step 4, one was at step 5, and the winner either remained at step 4 or went to step 4, and obviously the second team either dropped down to step 5 or carrying as they were. So that was a real intense game to be part of. I think there's about 800 there that day. I think when you see the pyrotechnics, like the blue flares going off and the smell of gunpowder come wafting down the lines, it can be a little bit intimidating. But fortunately, the game went pretty smooth, to be fair. Got a bit tense at the end, but not a plethora of cards. And probably the right team won. Unfortunate for Lincoln United, but Avro sort of got the win. And then I got another appointment a couple of weeks later, which I was very surprised. I thought, season's done, pack all my kit up, order my new kit for next season, wash my boots and whatnot. Because usually towards middle of May, that's your season done. And then June, you usually have June off, and then you come back in July, and hopefully you're ready for it for the next season. And I got an appointment, and it was a Premier League under-18s final, Barnsley versus Charlton Athletic, and I was, why is this for me? And I was in the top 10% of assistant referees in my pool. So I was really, really proud of that. I rocked up on the day, and there was 3 other guys. So I was on one line. So there was another guy on the other line, guy in the middle, and fourth official. The fourth official and the guy in the middle, they were going from level 3 to 2B. So they were getting promoted. The guy that was on the other line, he was a level 4 going to level 3. He was getting promoted. And when they said, so what, how are you doing and what level are you going to? I said, my first year level 4, mate. And so I felt that, not out of my comfort zone or anything like that. I felt like, how comes I've got this fixture? But obviously my scores had been reflective that I'd done really well. And we got the Premier League medal at the end of it. So, as I say, it's nice to have them little trinkets and little awards.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm enjoying it. And that's what I always go out. When I go out with other referees, I have 3 simple rules. Give what's expected. Try not to bring any unwanted attention to yourself, and enjoy it. And if you get the first 2 right, you'll enjoy it naturally. And that's pretty much my mantra.
And when you sort of refereeing a game and there's an absolutely fantastic game going on around you, can you sort of enjoy the game of football, or are you that busy concentrating on your refereeing and your officiating?
No, I think that when you're part of a good game of football, when I'll flip that coin. When you're not part of a great game of football, put it like that.
Right.
So it works the other way.
Right.
Sometimes 2 teams just want to kick lumps out of each other. But then I'll always say that if that's the way that the football's going, then you've got to ask yourself why. Because effectively, you're the conductor and you're operating as part of an orchestra. And people only do what you allow them to do. Sometimes it's beyond your control. But sometimes, if you're letting a lot of things go, then sometimes it can rise to the next level rapidly. So for me, if it's a game with a lot of cautions, it just depends how the game's going. But usually what you'll find is the higher levels of football. It's something that I really shouldn't say this to players when you're in the middle of one of those games that isn't going really well. But if you say that the higher levels of football, footballers just want to play football. It's usually the lower league stuff that they'll try and kick lumps out of each other because the ability is not as good as what the higher league stuff is. So that's what you'll tend to find.
Next up, NCEL Talk. I'll hand straight over to host Aaron Walton.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the NCEL Talk. We've got Si and Bob with us tonight, and myself, Aaron. So what we're going to do is look at what happened at the weekend and look forward to this weekend. So I want to start, if I may, with the 4th round of the FA Vase, with 3 clubs still fighting. Emily carried on their impressive form by beating Charlotte Richard from Lancashire 3-0. So old Charlotte Richard go back with the tails between the legs over the Pennines. So 439 there. What do we think of that then, boys?
That's good, 439 for But Hallam, 1,015.
Oh, you've stole, you've stole me thunder, Bob.
Sorry.
I was going to come on to that, but yes, you're absolutely spot on.
I'm new to this game. Sorry,
Don't
Alan.
Don't you worry, my friend. Don't you? You'll carry on. Yes, we'll go on to Hallam versus Silsden. Now, Hallam can always attract a big crowd, can't the gents? I think they've got I don't know whether there's a lot of students go watch them, but they do seem to get a lot of fans there. I mean, I can only look on in with raised eyebrows how many they get. You know, I'd love that many. But well, I wouldn't love that many at Barton because we couldn't cope. So, but maybe half of that would be nice. But getting back onto it, yes, Hallam beat into the next round. Now it's interesting because they face Lincoln United, and I've seen Lincoln United. Barton Town have played them in probably the best game I've seen this season. It was a Lincolnshire Cup, and it was 2-2 at full time, and it was both teams played football. So I reckon Lincoln will let Hallam play some football there, so that should be a good game. Emily have got a little bit of a tougher task, I think. They've got the Lang Jacks of Wycombe FC from the North East. Now, the North East, as we know, is a traditional hotbed of semi-pro football, so that's going to be a real test for Emily, isn't it?
No easy games from teams from the North East.
No, there isn't, is there? There isn't. They're all good. They're all good up there. So that's looking at the FA Vase, and we wish all the best to Hallam and all the best to Emily in their next round. So, but if we go on to I'm just going to go on to the Premier first because we started with Div 1 last week, and I'm going to get Bob in a little minute about how well Gould played. But a shock result in the Prem because Campion were beaten at home by Golker 5-2.
Yes.
I mean, I called Golker inconsistent last week, lose to Tadcaster at home, and then thumped the league leaders 5-2 in the next game. I rest my case, my lord. So I don't know what's happened there. It certainly is topsy-turvy, and I mean, we go to Golker on Saturday if it's on, and I ain't looking forward to that. So I mean, that was a super win for Golker. Well done. Thackley is still going strong, aren't they? And they've got a really super win away at rivals Garforth. Now, Garforth are very tight. They don't let much go, do they, at Garforth at the Bannister Prentice Stadium? So, good crowd there as well, Bob, wasn't there?
Yeah, good crowd. Yes, a good crowd there. Not an easy place to go, Garforth. Paul Marshall, he's the manager there. I mean, he was manager at Gould when we got promoted 20 years ago from the Northern Premier League, you know. So he's a good manager.
He's a good manager, and he never looks any older, does he, Bob?
No, he wears well, doesn't he?
He still looks the same as he did 20 years ago. We'll have to ask him his secret.
He came to one of our games early in the season. I thought to myself then, boy, he's not changed, you know.
No, he never does he? He still looks the same. Yeah. So he must go to Boots quite a bit and get their stuff. But but they lost, didn't they? So Garforth lost. It was a Kieran Suddard goal for Thackley. But again, a really good crowd there, 424. So that's a super effort. So, Thackley each week, I think, you might slip up, but they aren't. They're not slipping up at all. So well done. I'm going to go on to the game I was at on Saturday. Albion, Barton Town versus Albion. Now, Albion kept the pressure up with a 2-1 win at Barton Town. Robbie Fox fizzer on 8 minutes. What a great goal that was. Caught the Swans out cold, and then Ryan Conlon scored to put them 2 up. That seemed to spur Barton into action, and Tom Wardby rose like a salmon at the back post to get 2-1, and then it was Albion backs against the wall from 58 minutes on, and a really good defensive performance, and it was a good game. I mean, I was disappointed that we lost, but to be fair, it was a good game. And Albion, you know, they really held on. Now, one thing on a footnote, I just want to mention Brooklyn Dennis, who's a young lad who has dual registered with Barton, went down injured. It was just his knee popped out and it looked really bad. But I want to credit to the Albion players because they knew something was wrong and they ushered the physio on and got the ref's attention straight away. So well done, Albion there. And obviously the Barton Town players as well. But, good sportsmanship there from Albion. Well done. If we go on to Rossington, they drew 2-2 away at Eccleshill. One of my favourite grounds at Eccleshill. But that's a good point for Eccleshill in the fight to move up the table away from danger, isn't it?
It is, but we've just signed this week Bryce from Eccleshill. They scored, I think, it's their top scorer, 7 goals in 14 games. Bryce Gazane.
Yes. Yeah. You've got some players. I'm going to come on to your players in a minute, Bob, because you've got some quite tasty players joining Maltby, haven't you, from last week? But just go on. Penistone beat Handsworth 1-0 in a tight game. Now, the signs are there that Penistone Church are climbing up the table. 6th. They're unbeaten as well. I think they're unbeaten in about 5 now. So Penistone Church look ominous. Since that bit of a shellacking they got at home to Garforth, they've never looked back. Now, Bob, I'm coming on to goal now. Right. What spirit you show? 3-3 draw.
Yeah. Well, after a losing sequence of 10 games in all competitions, I mean, but I have to say we made those 3 debutants on Saturday, and Curtis, he scored in the first 5 minutes to put us 1-0 up.
Yeah.
Young Sam Thompson, he hit the bar.
Yeah.
Could have gone 2 up, but keeper saved it. And then Tadcaster equalised 1-1. So half time it was 1-1. And what's so frustrating is they equalised. We went back to the centre circle and referee blew for half time. So it's another. So that's
your momentum's gone. Yeah.
When you're at the bottom,
it was in goal for Tadcaster. Was it Joe Wilton?
Yeah. And he used to play for you.
He used to play for you, didn't he? Good keeper is Joe.
Yeah.
So it was half time. Second half then, Bob. How did you play second half?
We played well. To be honest, it was a great game advertising non-league football. It really was. It was right up and down all the time. We went 2-1 up. They equalised 2-2. And then a 17-year-old Charlie Nicholson, 17, he came on in the substitute in the second half with 3 minutes added on. He scored a fantastic header, a really bullet header. 3-2. Thought we'd won. Taddy went down to the other end and scored. But we had our centre half off at the time, getting treatment, so we were down to 10 men. So again, if he'd been on, would he have started that goal? We don't know. But I suppose before we went, we would have settled for a 3-3 draw. You would have done,
yeah. It's all ifs and buts, isn't it? That's the thing. But you've got a point. You've got a point. And you've got off the bottom.
That's right. You stole me thunder.
I stole your thunder this time. Yeah, you've got off the bottom because, unfortunately, Maltby lost narrowly to Frickley, didn't they? I mean, Frickley looked like they'd be cruising 4-0 up at 51 minutes, but what a fight back from the boys from Muglet Lane getting 3 back. But unfortunately, they lost 4-3 and they've gone to the bottom, Maltby. So it's looking good for you guys. You've started to hopefully see you've turned a corner.
And I went to watch the training last night at Snape School, and they were putting them through the paces. They look good, in training. So hope that goes on to.
Good.
Just a footnote: Ollie Norman's top scorer for Tadcaster.
Yeah.
This is for the Gould fans. He's the grandson of Mike Norman, who set Gould AFC up back in 1997. So that's
there you go. It has, It's a small world, isn't it? So so that's what.
Just a footnote for the Gould fans who listen,
Yeah. Well, we'll just finish on Bottersford, who picked a point to put home to the resurgent Pickering, and I think those two are 2 very, very much improved teams of late, Pickering and Bottersford. So we've covered the Prem. So I know we've got Ty waiting in the wings to give us a roundup of Div 1. And it's getting interesting at the top with some significant changes in the top 5 side.
It's getting tight there, isn't it now? It all depends on how these games in hand play out for everyone as well. I mean, that's the thing. And especially with, we'll look ahead and think how many games might not be on this weekend. But
Yeah.
there's a few teams that have got some games to pack in, which leaves you not really knowing what the true picture is for that division.
It don't, because you've got yourselves and Shirebrook on 28 and 29 games, and then you've got Parkgate at the top on 24, Beverley on 24, Wombwell, or as my good friend calls them, Womble, on 25 games, and Retford United on 25. So you just don't know, do you? All you can do is turn up and win.
That's it. Focus on your own game, isn't it?
And you guys went to Brackenedge and beat Yorkshire Amateurs 5-0.
Good game, and we took a big crowd as well, and a lot of away fans to that one, because I know that the Yorkshire Amateur have been, I know they've had some financial difficulties over the last sort of couple of years and stuff. So hopefully, I'd like to think we kind of helped out a bit with that, putting some money through the turnstiles and into the club and stuff. 176 was the crowd at that one, which doesn't maybe sound a lot, but when I actually looked into it, it's the highest they've had at a league game for 12 years.
Yeah.
12 years?
Wow. Yeah. I was a bit of a geek and looked back through the records on the NCEL website, and they haven't had that since 2012 when they played Hemsworth.
Yeah.
So that was a big crowd for such a small place.
Yeah, they've been wanting you coming every week.
Yeah,
I see Ben Gelder got two, didn't he? So
he did.
Last week saying he had this ligament damage and keep him out for a while, but can't have been as bad as he thought,
No, obviously not. Yeah, he was straight in, he was in the starting 11. We had some new signings that had come in during the week. Two started, one was on the bench. The pick of the bunch probably would especially looking at the scores. Slater Barnes got 2 goals, an assist, and nearly got a hat trick. So he had a very good debut on our left wing. So that was a good match to get back. So obviously we've had a bit of rough form lately, so it was good to get 3 points back on.
Yeah. I think you'll have to be watching out for Ben Gelder, Ty, because Bob seems to want him back at goal, doesn't he?
He's a good player, though. Aaron, he's a good player. He's a
good player, Ben Gelder. I think a few teams would like him, Bob, wouldn't they?
Certainly would, yeah. Anybody can score goals, worth the weight in gold, aren't they?
If you can get somebody who can score your goals, yes, I totally agree, because they're few and far between. So if we go on to Parkgate, I mean, they keep top place with a well-earned 3-0 away win at Brigg. Hart, Haslam and Royals are scorers. So they're still at the top. Beverley Town moved up to 4th. I mean, I was talking to a pal of mine who was a big Beverley Town fan. I said, well, let's be careful because Armthorpe might be a banana skin. Well, what do I know about football? Because Beverley gave them a real shellacking, didn't they? They scored after 11 seconds and then kept scoring. 9-0 in the end.
I agree with you going into that one. That I was looking at that one as being Armthorpe have been in some quite good form over the Christmas period, picking up points where you might not naturally expect them to. And they've already closed that gap to Yorkshire Amateur above them. So that was, on paper, a tricky tie going into it for Beverley, but they came through it well, didn't they?
Did really well, yeah. Beverley looking good. I mean, they've got Dave Ricardo in charge, and Dave has got a lot of experience at getting teams up from Division 1 into the Premier. So he's got that experience. He's a good manager, is Dave. Shirebrook, could only draw away at a spirited Athersley wreck.
Dolus as well in that one, yeah. And that's a good point for Athersley, isn't it?
Very good point. Well, I know I've been to Athersley quite a lot of times. I love going to Athersley. It's a proper non-league club. They look after you well. But Barton very rarely got anything at Athersley. They always seem to build the game up a bit. And I think I've seen us win once there with about 3 or 4 attempts. So it's a tough place to go. Womble move up to 5th at the expense of Retford United. So Wombwell driving a dagger into the heart of Glasnowton, a 7-0. I mean, Glasnowton are another team, aren't they? They're real good one week and absolutely awful the next. I mean, The manager must be pulling his hair out, I think.
He was on subs bench, wasn't he? Did you see that? Christian Fox and Ruben Pierce.
Yes.
On the subs bench, yeah.
Oh, so there might be they might have had a few injuries out or unavailable.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe that's a reflection of the scoreline,
Yeah, so I'll take it all back, glass out, and don't shoot me. If you're struggling for players, that's fair enough.
But I made a note here. The crowd, 159, was the biggest of the season for Glass Alton. So it showed that Bumwell took a few, Wombles took a few, didn't they?
They did, must have done, So again, a decent crowd. Retford United went down to the Robins of Selby 1-0. A late Troy Green in penalty there, so I think Retford will be a bit annoyed with themselves because they've dropped down to 6. Aubrey back to winning ways by beating a decent Staveley team 2-0, so Aubrey in 7th. Who else have we got? Louth Town. Now, I think they seem to be finding this level to the liking because they put 4 past Retford FC, Bailey Wright getting a couple. So I've seen Louth a few times in the old Links League and they always look quite good. So they're in 8th, so I don't think that holds any problem for them, does it? So what about you, Sty? How do you think it's shaping up? I know you've talked about games in hand and etc., but how do you think it's shaping up in Division 1?
Depending on what you've got for the title, I mean, looking at you've got 6 teams vying for the top 5 as it stands. I think if Aubrey had started the season better, they'd be in the mix because they've had the form since then. But I think a poor start's punished them, and I think they need a few teams to slip up if they're going to claw that 10 points. The 10 points off the playoffs.
Yeah, 10 points.
It's doable. It's doable. It just takes those teams above to drop.
Yeah.
But at the moment, there's a lot of consistency in those top teams. Parkgate haven't lost in 10 games now. Shirebrook haven't lost in 9. Beverley 5 games. So all the teams that are at the top there are in good form. And like you said, you mentioned like the mid-table part. I think that gap from Aubrey, Louth down to even 15th, where Selby are, that sort of area. They're all those teams that one week they'll pick up a win, then they'll lose to someone maybe even below them in the table or something. It's just getting consistency for them, isn't it?
It is. And I think at both Prem and Div 1, as Bob intimated, sometimes it's have they got the players available? Are players injured or players can't make it? And that unsettles your team. I think if you've got a settled team, I think that's half the battle, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly. It's got this consistency, isn't it?
Definitely. I know at my club, Barton Town, we've gone through. We've had consistency the last couple of seasons, but this season we've had people unavailable, people injured, and we've had lads coming in and going out. It's been a little bit hard for the manager. So, but
at Goal, since the change in management, we've only got 2 of the original players from the last. So we had a big change round,
You have, yeah. It's a good job you ain't got a guard dog there. It'd be biting all the players. It won't know who they are.
Well, I'm struggling as well.
Yeah. I can imagine you being like Bobby Robson, getting all the names wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, it's certainly looking interesting in both divisions. I mean, in the Prem, you've got Campion on 27 games, 57 points. But Emily, I mean, what happened to? I don't know what happened to Emily in the was it the Sheffield Cup? They lost 10-0 to.
I wonder what
it can't have been a full strength side.
No, it can't. No.
It can't.
Unless it was just a really, maybe Worksop were really that good. But if you look at Emily, obviously they've got the Vase. They're trying to really focus on that, closing that gap with the Premier Division.
Yeah.
Sheffield and Hallamshire Cup is going to be like third choice, isn't it? So you'd rest. If I was them, I'd rest a few players. Don't know if they did do, but I mean, they can focus on the main 2 now at least.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, any cup is a cup, and you want to win it. But like you say, Si, you can't spread yourself too thinly, can you? Otherwise, you probably end up with nothing. So
I think if they weren't in the Vase, yes, they probably want to really push on and win that cup. But when you've got that chance, they've got as far as they have in the Vase so far.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can sniff the end of the road, coming and thinking, oh, we could really do something here. So it's going to be the big one for them, isn't it?
It's
obviously trying to get that promotion.
Yeah, and they played it at Worksop. They switched it, didn't they? Played it at Worksop.
You did, yeah, because they've got 4G at Worksop, haven't they? They've got a 4G pitch now, so... Well, it looked 4G. I could be wrong, but it looked 4G.
I thought, yeah.
So we've got Thackley. We've got Thackley in third. They've played 25 points, but they're a good 25 games, and 46 points. So they're a little bit behind. And Albion still there, but Albion have only played 23 games, 42 points. And Albion are quite. I would say they're a good defensive team. They're quite stingy, and when you've got Robbie Fox in your team, you're always going to score a goal. Yeah, because I think we give him a little bit too much room, and by Christ, it was a good finish. Absolutely superb finish on 8 minutes. So I think Albion is still in it. And the surprise package, I think Rossington, Maine, I think they're the surprise package for me. Still up there in fifth, 23 games and 40 points. So they're doing quite well. At the bottom, then, Bob, you've moved off the bottom, so you're in 19th.
Yes.
Yeah, and you've got a game. You're a point in front of Maltby, and you're a game behind them. So
game in hand.
Yeah, so you're looking good, and
it's looking better.
It's looking better. You're not far behind Eccleshill as well. I mean, they're only 2 points in front of you.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And then what? Pickering a 6. So it's only a couple of wins, Bob, and then you're out. You're sort of out of danger.
Yeah, but we've got 5 games at home, but 10 away. That's going to be.
You said that last week, but maybe the pressure's off you. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, don't forget you got to come to Barton, and you always win there. You very rarely lose at our place.
Always. Well, we'll see. But I do think we will be a bit stronger than, say, because it was cancelled, wasn't it? But because it was postponed, we will be a bit stronger, I think. I definitely think we're playing you at the wrong time, Bob, but for right time for you. Yeah. So let's go on to Saturday's games. I know maybe there might be a few off for frosty pitches or snow or what have you, but Campion play at Garforth at home on Friday night. And then on Saturday, that'll be a cracking game, isn't it? What's that? First is 7th. Yeah.
So that'll be a good game, and we'll see how Campion are after they've lost. So see for a little bit of a fight back from them, because Emily are on the heels, aren't they? And then we've got Saturday. We've got in the Prem. We've got Hallam play Thackley. That'll be a good test for Thackley, because Hallam will be buoyed by that win against Silverton in the FA Vase. And a good tie at the Memorial Ground between Penistone Church and Knaresborough. That'll be good. I couldn't put a cigarette paper between those two.
No. That would be a good
I'm
game.
looking at Emily's as well. Emily have got Rossington, Maine. That sounds like a good tie.
Yeah.
Penistone and Knaresborough, it does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Eccleston's got Frickley. That'll be a good game, I think. For Eccleston will get something like that, you know.
Yeah, Answorth and Albion. That'll be a decent game. Albion good. And Emily play Rossington. So again, that will see how Rossington go again.
Yeah, it's frozen there.
Yeah, I think. Are we all right now?
Yeah, I can. Yeah,
we're back.
I can see you, Alan.
Yeah. Okay, mine froze a bit, I think so. And at the basement, we've got Pickering playing Gould, as we've already said. So you'll fancy yourself there, Bob?
Well, we'll hope to get something. You know, it's this sort of games that we need to get something, really.
Definitely. A win and a draw. We'll make a complete different outlook on your position, I think.
Yeah.
And then you've got Tadcaster host Maltby. So again, quite a tough one there because Maltby have got a bit of fight now. So we never know there. So in Division 1, standout game then, it's got to be Parkgate against Shirebrook.
Absolutely. You know, you again, we were just saying there about the unbeaten records. Unless it's a draw, then something's got to give, hasn't it? So it's going to be very interesting to see what comes out of that one. You know, can Shirebrook, who've got the more games played, take something away from Parkgate, which no one else has managed to do for a while? We've got a trip to Retford.
You've got to Retford, yeah. Is that Retford FC?
It is. It's Retford FC for that one, yeah. So we'll get to see the train going past every now and again.
Yes, I was just going to say that, yeah. Scared me to death first time I went. I thought, what's that? And that long walk through the tunnel to the ground.
Yes, yeah, from the car park on the other side of the road, yeah. So it's a nice. We went there last season. It's a nice place to go. I do quite like the setup that they're building there.
They're doing well, aren't they? They're doing it bit by bit, which you've got to do. So. And Beverley entertained Glasshoughton. Hopefully Glasshoughton have got a full team, and I don't know about Beverley. Beverley are doing really well at the moment, but early on in the season, I've seen them. I saw them lose to Harrogates, and they've not put teams to bed. You know what I mean? They've had to wait till near the end. I mean, obviously they've given Armthorpe a real shellacking 9-0, but I've seen them a few times at Beverley, and they've not put teams to bed till near the end. I mean, Clare Cross. A few weeks ago, I think they won 3-1, but it was a struggle. It was a struggle, but if you win, you win.
Didn't they beat someone a couple of weeks ago by scoring all 3 goals after 80 minutes as well, from memory? I think they had a match recently where they did that, didn't they?
They did, and I can't remember who it was. Was it somebody like Dronfield?
It was someone that ran them close, but then they just scored them all again. Oh, it was Armthorpe. That's what it was, because I was talking about Armthorpe's sort of recent form. So yeah, they played Armthorpe, and it was the last sort of 10 minutes when they put that one to bed. So, but they have been in a good vein of form of Beverley as well. So that's a tough trip for Glasshoughton, is that? Retford United have got Athersley.
Oh, is that at Retford United?
At Retford United.
And who else have we got in that league?
Wonwell against Swallownest. I suppose you're going to back Wonwell for that one, given Swallownest's position at the moment. They're struggling to pick up points, aren't they?
Allerton lost, didn't they, in midweek, didn't they? So that was James Humphrey's first game. I don't think they lost by many. Was it 2-0 against Armthorpe?
2-0 for Armthorpe,
yeah. So, I say Armthorpe, they're a funny team, aren't they? Lose 9-0, then win 2-0. But I know Allerton are struggling, but that's certainly a lot better for Allerton than the big scores they've been losing to. So I'm off to watch Barton hopefully play at Golker in Huddersfield, and I'm hoping there's a game on, but I've probably had a lot of snow up at Huddersfield, so you never know.
I reckon there'll be an early pitch inspection at Golcar for that to save you travelling, you know. I would imagine.
I hope it's earlier than it was at Pickering. I got there. And then, oh dear me, my lad was fuming. It was off. I had to move him away. From the referee because he was using some rather colourful language, which is not heard of me. So all in all, hopefully we'll get some good football, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody next week.
That's it for this edition. If you've got any news for the podcast or you'd like to appear on the podcast, please email ncelpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.